Good morning, class. Happy Wednesday. So we're done our review now for the week, and today we are learning something new. We're going to start our unit on triangles. So today we are learning about the angle sum of a triangle, okay? And so you do have anchor charts for this unit. You can grab this one if you'd like, but first, what I wanted to do with you guys, because we've already had our angles unit, and triangles and angles relate to each other quite a bit. So I wanted to just go over briefly what we learned in our angle unit. So you'll remember we have our intersecting lines here, and there are rules that apply to these lines, okay? So I want you to think about it for a second and we'll work together to remember what the rules are. So the first rule is that vertically opposite angles are equal, okay? So I'm going to write that on the board here. Vertically opposite angles are equal. Okay, so that means that A is equal to C and B is equal to D, okay? The second rule that we know about this setup is that the sum of angles on a straight line is 180 degrees, okay? The sum of angles on a straight line is 180 degrees. Okay, so that rule means that if this is our straight line, A plus B equals 180 degrees. Okay, so let's see if we can type it in there. Whoop. So this spot, oh, my marker doesn't want to do it, is 180 degrees, which obviously on the flip side, D and C are on the other side of the line, and so they also equal 180 degrees, which brings us to our third point. The sum of angles at a point is 360 degrees. So say this was a point in the middle, everything around it equals 360 degrees. So the sum of angles at a point is 360 degrees. Okay, so if we went all the way around this point, A plus B plus C plus D is 360 degrees. Okay, so we know that rule too. So we have vertically opposite angles are equal. The sum of angles on a straight line is 180 degrees, and the sum of angles at a point is 360 degrees. So those are some of the rules that we learned about angles, okay? And we have one more over here, but we're going to use this diagram. So as you can see, I've drawn a 90 degree. And we know that it's 90 degrees because I gave it a little box that tells us that it's 90 degrees. Okay, and the rule for 90 degrees is, of course, that the sum of angles in a right angle, so x plus y, is going to be 90 degrees. Okay? Okay? Okay, so we know that x plus y equals 90 degrees. Okay, so those are all of our angle rules that we did last term, okay? And they're going to help us to understand how angles work inside triangles now, okay? So now let's look at triangles. So if you can grab your textbook, we're going to turn to page 57, okay? So we have this helpful little diagram here. Okay, so I want you to pull that open. Okay, and I'm going to use this, okay, because you'll see that what we're doing is making a triangle, okay? So if you want, you can pause the video now and grab a piece of paper so you can make your own triangle. It doesn't have to be exactly the one in the textbook. It can just be a triangle, okay? Because you'll see that what we're gonna do works with any triangle, okay? But I have my triangle right here, and I've marked its little angles. We don't know what they're worth, but I will show you a cool thing with them. So what we're gonna do is cut our triangle, okay? So I'm gonna try to follow the instructions loosely here. And I'm gonna cut here. So I've lopped off this first angle. And then I'm gonna cut it here. Okay, so I've lopped off my second angle. So now I have my little broken triangle. And what we can do is rearrange it so all the angles are together. Okay, I'm putting all of my angle markers here. Okay, and what do you see? I'm sorry, I'm not holding them perfectly. But our angles all together come on a straight line, and they fill that straight line. Okay, so the three angles come together on a straight line, which we know from our rules adds up to 150, which means that the angles of a triangle add up to 180 degrees, right? Because if we put them back here, we have our triangle, and they're all inside the triangle. Okay, but we can see that if we were to splice them up and put them on a straight line, they come together to add up to 180 degrees. Okay, so now I want you to get your spiral book out because we're actually going to make a note of that. Okay, so get your spiral book out and write this title. And then I'm gonna erase our review notes so that we have room for our new note, okay? So make sure you have our title, Math Angle Sum of a Triangle, okay? And the date, Wednesday, May 5th. 2021. And if you need to, you can pause the video if you need more time. But here is our note. We're going to write this down. And you can give it a point if you want to, like a little bullet point, or you can just write it as the first line. But our rule is the three angles of a triangle add up to 180 degrees, okay? So this is a rule. This is always true. A triangle will always have angles that add up to 180 degrees, okay? So take a minute and write that down in your spiral book, please. And again, if you need more time, please pause the video here and make sure that you write that note down, okay? But we're going to look at this a little bit further to continue to see the evidence, okay? So come along with me to textbook page 58. Okay, so we have our note open and we have our textbook open because our task now is to measure and add up the angles in each triangle. So take a minute and grab your protractor if you need to. I know I sent your geometry kits home because you'll be needing this, okay? So if you need to pause the video, please do so now so you can go get your protractor. Okay, and then let's begin measuring our angles because it's asking us to measure them and add them up, okay? So we know that in order to measure our angle, we have to line up the point, okay, and match up the bottom line with this line and then follow the other line up. So we have number 1 for A, we have, the first one is 55 degrees. Okay, and I want you to be writing this in your notebook as well, okay, so you can keep track as well. So let's look at this angle, this corner next. Okay, and I'm going to line it up with my T down here and straighten the bottom up. Okay, and I see that this is a 90-degree angle. Perfect. So we have 90 degrees. Okay, that's our second angle. And then I'm going to turn the protractor so it goes along this line. Okay, and I'm going to line up this line so it's straight along one line of the triangle. And now I can see. Okay, and I've lined it up so I can follow this line up to the angle, and that is 35 degrees. Okay? So those are our three angles for A, and if we add them up together, so we have 55 plus 35 equals 90, and then we have another 90, which equals 180. Would you look at that? Okay, so I want you to try to do B on your own. Okay, and I'm gonna sit here and do it without saying it out loud, but try it for yourself. So pause the video right here and try it for yourself and see how you did. Okay. Okay, so for B, we see that our three angles are 65 degrees, 40 degrees, 75 degrees, and it adds up to 180. Okay, and again with C, I want you to try it on your own first, and I will be sitting here doing it, but pause the video if you need to so you can give it a shot by yourself. Okay. All right, and that's C. And so the cool thing is you can check your work. So when you've picked all of your angles and measured them and it doesn't add up to 180 degrees, if that happens, you know that you need to check your angles again, okay? So that's how we measure it and find it out with a protractor. But now let's look at number 2, okay? Okay, so number 2 is asking us to do the math, okay? So from this point out, if you're asked to find the unknown angles, we're gonna do it with calculation, okay? And not with measuring. So you can put your protractor away we're not using it now because we want to practice a calculation, and the triangles aren't necessarily drawn to scale, which means that the angle that you measured might not be the exact angle that they're wanting you to find, okay? So the calculations are fairly straightforward. Because we know that the sum of angles in a triangle adds up to 180 degrees. So if we're asked to find the unknown angle, all we have to do is subtract the two known angles from 180 degrees, okay? Which you can see in the thought bubble from our little friend here, okay? So in number 2, we are given 54 degrees and 82 degrees, okay? So we have to do our subtraction. So we have 180 minus 54 and minus 82. Okay, and you can, of course, do this in 2 steps if you want to. Okay, but this is going to equal 4. Okay, and then we have 17 minus 13, which is also 4. Okay, so the unknown angle, which in this case is C, equals 44 degrees. Okay, and that is how we find our angles using calculations. Okay, so your task now in the textbook is to do number 3, please. Okay, so it's the same idea. You're given 2 angles that you know, and what you have to do is subtract the 2 known angles from 180, and then whatever's left will be the correct angle. So please complete number 3 in the textbook on your own, and then you get to hop into your workbook as well, okay? Today's workbook is exercise 38. All right, and as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I know today was a lot. We learned something new, which is really cool. So if you have any questions, by all means, reach out to me. And of course, we have our math Zoom this week on Friday, I believe. So you can always ask questions then as well. Okay, but for now, enjoy.